Guess what? When it comes right down to it, wherever you go, there you are. Whatever you wind up doing, that's what you've wound up doing. Whatever you are thinking right now, that's what's on your mind. Whatever has happened to you, it's already happened. The important question is, how are you going to handle it? In other words, now what? Like it or not, this moment is all we really have to work with. Yet we all too easily conduct our lives as if forgetting momentarily that we are here where we already are, and that we are in what we are already in. In every moment, we find ourselves at the crossroad of here and now. But when the cloud of forgetfulness over where we are now sets in that very moment we get lost. Now what becomes a real problem. By lost, I mean that we momentarily lose touch with ourselves and with the full extent of our possibilities. Instead, we fall into a robot-like way of seeing and thinking and doing. In those moments, we break contact with what is deepest in ourselves and affords us perhaps our greatest opportunities for creativity, learning, and growing. If we're not careful, those clouded moments can stretch out and become most of our lives. To allow ourselves to be truly in touch with where we already are, no matter where that is, we have got to pause in our experience long enough to let the present moment sink in. Long enough to actually feel the present moment, to see it in its fullness, to hold it in awareness, and thereby come to know and understand it better. Only then can we accept the truth of this moment of our life, learn from it, and move on. Instead, it often seems as if we are preoccupied with the past, with what has already happened, or with a future that hasn't arrived yet. We look for someplace else to stand, where we hope things will be better, happier, more the way we want them to be, or the way they used to be. Most of the time we are only partially aware of this inner tension, if we are aware of it at all. What's more, we are also only partially aware at best of exactly what we're doing in and with our lives, and the effects our actions, and more subtly our thoughts, have on what we see and don't see, what we do and don't do. When we speak of meditation, it's important for you to know that this is not some weird cryptic activity as our popular culture might have it. It does not involve becoming some kind of zombie, vegetable, self-absorbed narcissist, navel-gazer, space cadet, cultist, devotee, mystic, or Eastern philosopher. Meditation is simply about being yourself and knowing something about who that is. It's about coming to realize that you are on a path, whether you like it or not, namely the path that is your life. Meditation may help us to see that this path we call our life has direction, that it is always unfolding, moment by moment, and that what happens now in this moment influences what happens next. If what happens now does influence what happens next, then doesn't it make sense to look around a bit from time to time so that you're more in touch with what is happening now, so that you can take your inner and outer bearings and perceive with clarity the path that you are actually on and the direction in which you are going? If you do, maybe you will be in a better position to chart a course for yourself that is truer to your inner being, a soul path, a path with heart, your path with a capital P. If not, the sheer momentum of your unconsciousness in this moment just colors the next moment. The days, months, and years quickly go by unnoticed, unused, unappreciated. In my earlier book, Full Catastrophe Living, I tried to make the path of mindfulness accessible to mainstream Americans so that it would not feel Buddhist or mystical so much as sensible. Mindfulness has to do above all with attention and awareness, which are universal human qualities. But in our society, we tend to take these capacities for granted and don't think to develop them systematically in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. Meditation is the process by which we go about deepening our attention and awareness, refining them, and putting them to greater practical use in our lives. Full catastrophe living can be thought of as a navigational chart, intended for people facing physical or emotional pain or reeling from the effects of too much stress. I wrote Full Catastrophe Living thinking of the people referred to us as patients in our stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. I was moved to do so by the remarkable transformations in mind and body that many people report as they put aside trying to change the severe problems that brought them to the clinic in the first place, and engage over an 8-week period in the intensive discipline of opening and listening that characterizes the practice of mindfulness. It had to speak to the pressing needs of people with serious medical problems and chronic pain, as well as to those suffering in different kinds of stressful situations. This series is different. It's meant to provide brief and easy access to the essence of mindfulness meditation and its applications for people whose lives may or may not be dominated by immediate problems of stress, pain, and illness. It is offered particularly for those who resist structured programs and for people who don't like to be told what to do but are curious enough about mindfulness and its relevance to try to piece things together for themselves with a few hints and suggestions here and there. The focus is on the spirit of mindfulness, both in our formal attempts at practice and in our efforts to bring it into all aspects of our daily lives. Each chapter is a glimpse through one face of the multifaceted diamond of mindfulness. The chapters are related to each other by tiny rotations of the crystal. Some may sound similar to others, but each facet is also different, unique. This exploration of the diamond of mindfulness is offered for all those who would chart a course toward greater wisdom and sanity in their lives. What is required is a willingness to look deeply at one's present moments, no matter what they hold, in a spirit of generosity, kindness toward oneself, and openness toward what might be possible. Part 1 explores the rationale and background for taking on or deepening a personal practice of mindfulness. It challenges the reader to experiment with introducing mindfulness into his or her life in a number of different ways. Part 1. The Bloom of the Present Moment. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. Henry David Thoreau, Walden. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is an ancient Buddhist practice which has profound relevance for our present-day lives. This relevance has nothing to do with Buddhism per se or with becoming a Buddhist, but it has everything to do with waking up and living in harmony with oneself and with the world. It has to do with examining who we are, with questioning our view of the world and our place in it, and with cultivating some appreciation for the fullness of each moment we are alive. Most of all, it has to do with being in touch. From the Buddhist perspective, our ordinary waking state of consciousness is seen as being severely limited and limiting, resembling in many respects an extended dream rather than wakefulness. Meditation helps us wake up from this sleep of automaticity and unconsciousness, thereby making it possible for us to live our lives with access to the full spectrum of our conscious and unconscious possibilities. Sages, yogis, and Zen masters have been exploring this territory systematically for thousands of years. In the process, they have learned something which may now be profoundly beneficial in the West, to counterbalance our cultural orientation toward controlling and subduing nature rather than honoring that we are an intimate part of it. Their collective experience suggests that by investigating inwardly our own nature as beings, and particularly the nature of our own minds through careful and systematic self-observation, we may be able to live lives of greater satisfaction, harmony, and wisdom. It also offers a view of the world which is complementary to the predominantly reductionist and materialist one currently dominating Western thought and institutions. but this view is neither particularly Eastern nor mystical. Thoreau saw the same problem with our ordinary mind state in New England in 1846 and wrote with great passion about its unfortunate consequences. Mindfulness has been called the heart of Buddhist meditation. Fundamentally, mindfulness is a simple concept. Its power lies in its practice and its applications. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. This kind of attention nurtures greater awareness, clarity, and acceptance of present moment reality. It wakes us up to the fact that our lives unfold only in moments. If we are not fully present for many of those moments, we may not only miss what is most valuable in our lives, but also fail to realize the richness and the depth of our possibilities for growth and transformation. A diminished awareness of the present moment inevitably creates other problems for us as well through our unconscious and automatic actions and behaviors, often driven by deep-seated fears and insecurities. These problems tend to build over time if they are not attended to, and can eventually leave us feeling stuck and out of touch. Over time, we may lose confidence in our ability to redirect our energies in ways that would lead to greater satisfaction and happiness, perhaps even to greater health. Mindfulness provides a simple but powerful route for getting ourselves unstuck, back into touch with our own wisdom and vitality. It's a way to take charge of the direction and quality of our own lives, including our relationships within the family, our relationship to work and to the larger world and planet, and most fundamentally, our relationship with ourself as a person. The key to this path, which lies at the root of Buddhism, Taoism, and yoga, and which we also find in the works of people like Emerson, Thoreau, and Whitman, and in Native American wisdom, is an appreciation for the present moment and the cultivation of an intimate relationship with it through a continual attending to it with care and discernment. It is the direct opposite of taking life for granted. The habit of ignoring our present moments in favor of others yet to come leads directly to a pervasive lack of awareness of the web of life in which we are embedded. This includes a lack of awareness and understanding of our own mind and how it influences our perceptions and our actions. It severely limits our perspective on what it means to be a person and how we are connected to each other and to the world around us. Religion has traditionally been the domain of such fundamental inquiries within a spiritual framework, but mindfulness has little to do with religion except in the most fundamental meaning of the word, as an attempt to appreciate the deep mystery of being alive and to acknowledge being vitally connected to all that exists. When we commit ourselves to paying attention in an open way, without falling prey to our own likes and dislikes, opinions and prejudices, projections and expectations, new possibilities open up, and we have a chance to free ourselves from the straitjacket of unconsciousness. I like to think of mindfulness simply as the art of conscious living. You don't have to be a Buddhist or a yogi to practice it. In fact, if you know anything about Buddhism, you will know that the most important point is to be yourself and not try to become anything that you are not already. Buddhism is fundamentally about being in touch with your own deepest nature and letting it flow out of you unimpeded. It has to do with waking up and seeing things as they are. In fact, the word Buddha simply means one who has awakened to his or her own true nature. So mindfulness will not conflict with any beliefs or traditions, religious or for that matter scientific, nor is it trying to sell you anything, especially not a new belief system or ideology. It is simply a practical way to be more in touch with the fullness of your being through a systematic process of self-observation, self-inquiry, and mindful action. There's nothing cold, analytical, or unfeeling about it. The overall tenor of mindfulness practice is gentle, appreciative, and nurturing. Another way to think of it would be heartfulness. A student once said, "When I was a Buddhist, it drove my parents and friends crazy. But when I'm a Buddha, nobody's upset at all. Simple but not easy. While it may be simple to practice mindfulness, it's not necessarily easy. Mindfulness requires effort and discipline for the simple reason that the forces that work against our being mindful, namely our habitual unawareness and automaticity, are exceedingly tenacious. They are so strong and so much out of our consciousness that an inner commitment and a certain kind of work are necessary just to keep up our attempts to capture our moments in awareness and sustain mindfulness. But it is an intrinsically satisfying work, because it puts us in touch with many aspects of our lives that are habitually overlooked and lost to us. It is also enlightening and liberating work. It's enlightening in that it literally allows us to see more clearly and therefore come to understand more deeply areas of our lives that we were out of touch with or unwilling to look at. This may include encountering deep emotions such as grief, sadness, woundedness, anger, and fear that we might not ordinarily allow ourselves to hold in awareness or express consciously. Mindfulness can also help us to appreciate feelings such as joy, peacefulness, and happiness, which often go by fleetingly and unacknowledged. It is liberating in that it leads to new ways of being in our own skin and in the world, which can free us from the ruts we so often fall into. It is empowering as well because paying attention in this way opens channels to deep reservoirs of creativity, intelligence, imagination, clarity, determination, choice, and wisdom within us. We tend to be particularly unaware that we're thinking virtually all the time. The incessant stream of thoughts flowing through our minds leaves us very little respite for inner quiet. And we leave precious little room for ourselves anyway, just to be, without having to run around doing things all the time. Our actions are all too frequently driven rather than undertaken in awareness, driven by those perfectly ordinary thoughts and impulses that run through the mind like a coursing river, if not a waterfall. We get caught up in the torrent, and it winds up submerging our lives as it carries us to places we may not wish to go and may not even realize we are headed for. Meditation means learning how to get out of this current, sit by its bank and listen to it, learn from it, and then use its energies to guide us rather than to tyrannize us. This process doesn't magically happen by itself. It takes energy. We call the effort to cultivate our ability to be in the present moment practice, or meditation practice. The following interchange is from the writings of Nisargadatta Maharaj, I Am That. Question: how can I set right a tangle which is entirely below the level of my consciousness? Nisargadatta's response: by being with yourself, by watching yourself in your daily life with alert interest, with the intention to understand rather than to judge, in full acceptance of whatever may emerge because it is there, you encourage the deep to come to the surface and enrich your life and consciousness with its captive energies. This is the great work of awareness. It removes obstacles and releases energies by understanding the nature of life and mind. Intelligence is the door to freedom, and alert attention is the mother of intelligence. Stopping. People think of meditation as some kind of special activity, but this is not exactly correct. Meditation is simplicity itself. As a joke, we sometimes say, don't just do something, sit there. But meditation is not just about sitting either. It's about stopping and being present. That is all. Mostly we run around doing. Are you able to come to a stop in your life, even for one moment? Could it be this moment? What would happen if you did? A good way to stop all the doing is to shift into the being mode for a moment. Think of yourself as an eternal witness, as timeless. Just watch this moment without trying to change it at all. What is happening? What do you feel? What do you see? What do you hear? The funny thing about stopping is that as soon as you do it, here you are. Things get simpler. In some ways, it's as if you died and the world continued on. If you did die, all your responsibilities and obligations would immediately evaporate. Their residue would somehow get worked out without you. No one else can take over your unique agenda. It would die or peter out with you just as it has for everyone else who has ever died. So you don't need to worry about it in any absolute way. If this is true, maybe you don't need to make one more phone call right now, even if you think you do. Maybe you don't need to read something just now or run one more errand. By taking a few moments to die on purpose to the rush of time while you're still living, you free yourself to have time for the present. By dying now in this way, you actually become more alive now. This is what stopping can do. There is nothing passive about it, and when you decide to go, it's a different kind of going because you stopped. The stopping actually makes the going more vivid, richer, more textured. It helps keep all the things we worry about and feel inadequate about in perspective. It gives us guidance. Try stopping, sitting down and becoming aware of your breathing once in a while throughout the day. It can be for 5 minutes or even 5 seconds. Let go into full acceptance of the present moment, including how you are feeling and what you perceive to be happening. For these moments, don't try to change anything at all. Just breathe and let go. Breathe and let be. Die to having to have anything be different in this moment. In your mind and in your heart, giving yourself permission to allow this moment to be exactly as it is, and allow yourself to be exactly as you are. Then, when you're ready to move, moving in the direction your heart tells you to go, mindfully and with resolution. New Yorker cartoon. 2 monks in robes and shaved heads, one young, one old, sitting side by side, cross-legged on the floor. The younger one is looking somewhat quizzically at the older one, who is turning towards him and saying, "Nothing happens next. This is it." It's true. Ordinarily, when we undertake something, it's only natural to expect a desirable outcome for our efforts. We want to see results, even if it's only a pleasant feeling. The sole exception I can think of is meditation. Meditation is the only intentional, systematic human activity, which at bottom is about not trying to improve yourself or get anywhere else, but simply to realize where you already are. Perhaps its value lies precisely in this. Maybe we all need to do one thing in our lives simply for its own sake. But it would not be quite accurate to call meditation a doing. It's more accurately described as a being. When we understand that this is it, it allows us to let go of the past and the future and wake up to what we are now, in this moment. People usually don't get this right away. They want to meditate in order to relax, to experience a special state, to become a better person, to reduce some stress or pain, to break out of old habits and patterns, to become free or enlightened. All valid reasons to take up meditation practice, but all equally fraught with problems if you expect those things to happen just because now you are meditating. You'll get caught up in wanting to have a special experience, or in looking for signs of progress. And if you don't feel something special pretty quickly, you may start to doubt the path you have chosen, or to wonder whether you are, quote, doing it right. In most domains of learning, this is only reasonable. Of course you have to see progress sooner or later to keep at something, but meditation is different. From the perspective of meditation, every state is a special state, every moment a special moment. When we let go of wanting something else to happen in this moment, we are taking a profound step towards being able to encounter what is here now. If we hope to go anywhere, or to develop ourselves in any way, we can only step from where we are standing. If we don't really know where we are standing, a knowing that comes directly from the cultivation of mindfulness, we may only go in circles for all our efforts and expectations. So in meditation practice, the best way to get somewhere is to let go of trying to get anywhere at all. Wu Men said, "If your mind isn't clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life." Try reminding yourself from time to time, this is it. See if there is anything at all that it cannot be applied to. Reminding yourself that acceptance of the present moment has nothing to do with resignation in the face of what's happening. It simply means a clear acknowledgement that what is happening is happening. Acceptance doesn't tell you what to do. What happens next, what you choose to do, that has to come out of your understanding of this moment. You might try acting out of a deep knowing of this is it. Does it influence how you choose to proceed or respond? Is it possible for you to contemplate that in a very real way, this may actually be the best season, the best moment of your life? If that was so, what would it mean for you? Capturing your moments. The best way to capture moments is to pay attention. This is how we cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness means being awake. It means knowing what you are doing. But when we start to focus in on what our own mind is up to, for instance, it's not unusual to quickly go unconscious again, to fall back into an automatic pilot mode of unawareness. These lapses in awareness are frequently caused by an eddy of dissatisfaction with what we are seeing or feeling in that moment, out of which springs a desire for something to be different, for something to change. You can easily observe the mind's habit of escaping from the present moment for yourself. Just try to keep your attention focused on any object for even a short period of time. You will find that to cultivate mindfulness, you may have to remember over and over again to be awake and aware. We do this by reminding ourselves to look, to feel, to be. It's that simple. Checking in from moment to moment, sustaining awareness across a stretch of timeless moments, being here, now. Try asking yourself in this moment, am I awake? Where is my mind right now? It helps to have a focus for your attention, an anchor line to tether you to the present moment and to guide you back when the mind wanders. The breath serves this purpose exceedingly well. It can be a true ally. Bringing awareness to our breathing, we remind ourselves that we are here now, so we might as well be fully awake for whatever is happening already. Our breathing can help us in capturing our moments. It's surprising that more people don't know about this. After all, the breath is always here, right under our noses. You would think just by chance we might have come across its usefulness at one point or another. We even have the phrase, I didn't have a moment to breathe, or to catch my breath, to give us a hint that moments and breathing might be connected in an interesting way. To use your breathing to nurture mindfulness, just tune into the feeling of it. The feeling of the breath coming into your body and the feeling of the breath leaving your body. That's all. Just feeling the breath, breathing and knowing that you're breathing. This doesn't mean deep breathing or forcing your breathing or trying to feel something special or wondering whether you're doing it right. It doesn't mean thinking about your breathing either. It's just a bare bones awareness of the breath moving in and the breath moving out. It doesn't have to be for a long time at any one stretch. Using the breath to bring us back to the present moment takes no time at all, only a shift in attention. but great adventures await you if you give yourself a little time to string moments of awareness together, breath by breath, moment by moment. Try staying with one full in-breath as it comes in, one full out-breath as it goes out, keeping your mind open and free for just this moment, just this breath. Abandon all ideas of getting somewhere or having anything happen. Just keep returning to the breath when the mind wanders, stringing moments of mindfulness together, breath by breath. Try it every once in a while as you listen. From Kabir. Kabir says, "Student, tell me, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath." It helps to keep at it. As you begin befriending your breath, you see immediately that unawareness is everywhere. Your breath teaches you that not only does unawareness go with the territory, it is the territory. It does this by showing you over and over again that it's not so easy to stay with the breath even if you want to. Lots of things intrude, carry us off, prevent us from concentrating. We see that the mind has gotten cluttered over the years, like an attic with old bags and accumulated junk. Just knowing this is a big step in the right direction. You don't have to go out of your way to practice. Henry David Thoreau's 2 years at Walden Pond were above all a personal experiment in mindfulness. He chose to put his life on the line in order to revel in the wonder and simplicity of present moments. But you don't have to go out of your way or find someplace special to practice mindfulness. It's sufficient to make a little time in your life for stillness and what we call non-doing, and then tune into your breathing. All of Walden Pond is within your breath. The miracle of the changing seasons is within the breath. Your parents and your children are within the breath. Your body and your mind are within the breath. The breath is the current connecting body and mind, connecting us with our parents and our children, connecting our body with the outer world's body. It is the current of life. There are nothing but golden fish in this stream. All we need to see them clearly is the lens of awareness. From Walden, by Henry David Thoreau. Time is but the stream I go a-fishing in. I drink at it, but while I drink I see the sandy bottom and detect how shallow it is. Its thin current slides away, but eternity remains. I would drink deeper, fish in the sky, whose bottom is pebbly with stars. And also from Walden. In eternity there is indeed something true and sublime. But all these times and places and occasions are now and here. God himself culminates in the present moment and will never be more divine in the lapse of all the ages. Can anybody meditate? I get asked this question a lot. I suspect people ask because they think that probably everybody else can meditate, but they can't. They want to be reassured that they're not alone, that there are at least some other people they can identify with, those hapless souls who were born incapable of meditating. But it isn't so simple. Thinking you are unable to meditate is a little like thinking you are unable to breathe, or to concentrate or relax. Pretty much everybody can breathe easily. And under the right circumstances, pretty much anybody can concentrate, anybody can relax. People often confuse meditation with relaxation or some other special state that you have to get or feel. When once or twice you try and you don't get anywhere, or you didn't feel anything special, then you think that you're one of those people who can't do it. But meditation is not about feeling a certain way. It's about feeling the way you feel. It's not about making the mind empty or still, although stillness does deepen in meditation and can be cultivated systematically. Above all, meditation is about letting the mind be as it is and knowing something about how it is in this moment. It's not about getting somewhere else. but about allowing yourself to be where you already are. If you don't understand this, you will think that you are constitutionally unable to meditate. But that's just more thinking, and in this case, incorrect thinking at that. True, meditation does require energy and a commitment to stick with it. But then wouldn't it be more accurate to say, I won't stick with it, rather than, I can't do it? Anybody can sit down and watch their breath or watch their mind. And you don't have to be sitting. You could do it walking, standing, lying down, standing on one leg, running, or taking a bath. But to stay at it for even 5 minutes requires intentionality. To make it part of your life requires some discipline. So when people say they can't meditate, what they really mean is that they won't make time for it, or that when they try they don't like what happens. It isn't what they are looking for or hoping for. It doesn't fulfill their expectations. So maybe they should try again, this time letting go of their expectations and just watching. If you sit down to meditate, even for a moment, it will be a time for non-doing. It's very important not to think that this non-doing is synonymous with doing nothing. They couldn't be more different. Consciousness and intention matter here. In fact, they are key. On the surface, it seems as if there might be 2 kinds of non-doing. One involving not doing any outward work, the other involving what we might call effortless activity. Ultimately, we come to see that they are the same. It is the inward experience that counts here. What we frequently call formal meditation involves purposefully making a time for stopping all outward activity and cultivating stillness, with no agenda other than being fully present in each moment. Not doing anything. Perhaps such moments of non-doing are the greatest gift one can give oneself. Try recognizing the bloom of the present moment in your daily meditation practice if you have one. If you're up early in the morning, try going outside and looking, a sustained, mindful, attentive looking, at the stars, at the moon, at the dawning light when it comes. Feel the air, the cold, the warmth, a sustained, mindful, attentive feeling. Realize that the world around you is sleeping. Remember when you see the stars, that you're looking back in time, millions of years. The past is present now and here. Then go and sit, or meditate lying down. Let this or any time you practice be your time for letting go of all doing, for shifting into the being mode, in which you simply dwell in stillness and mindfulness, attending to the moment-to-moment unfolding of the present, adding nothing, subtracting nothing, affirming that this is it. Patience. Certain attitudes or mental qualities support meditation practice and provide a rich soil in which the seeds of mindfulness can flourish. By purposefully cultivating these qualities, we are actually tilling the soil of our own mind and ensuring that it can serve as a source of clarity, compassion, and right action in our lives. These inner qualities which support meditation practice cannot be imposed, legislated, or decreed. They can only be cultivated, and this only when you have reached the point where your inner motivation is strong enough to want to cease contributing to your own suffering and confusion, and perhaps to that of others. It amounts to behaving ethically, a sorely maligned concept in many circles. On the radio, I heard someone define ethics as obedience to the unenforceable. Not bad. You do it for inner reasons, not because someone is keeping score, or because you might be punished if you break the rules and get caught. You're marching to the beat of your own drummer. It's an inner hearing you're attending to, just as it is an inner soil that's being tilled for the cultivation of mindfulness. but you cannot have harmony without a commitment to ethical behavior. It's the fence that keeps out the goats that will eat all the young shoots in your garden. I see patience as one of these fundamental ethical attitudes. If you cultivate patience, you almost can't help cultivating mindfulness, and your meditation practice will gradually become richer and more mature. After all, if you really aren't trying to get anywhere else in this moment, patience takes care of itself. It's a remembering that things unfold in their own time. The seasons cannot be hurried. Spring comes, the grass grows by itself. Being in a hurry usually doesn't help, and it can create a great deal of suffering, sometimes in us, sometimes in those who have to be around us. Patience is an ever-present alternative to the mind's endemic restlessness and impatience. Scratch the surface of impatience, and what you will find lying beneath it, subtly or not so subtly, is anger. It's the strong energy of not wanting things to be the way they are, or blaming someone, often yourself, or something, for it. This doesn't mean you can't hurry when you have to. It's possible even to hurry patiently, mindfully, moving fast because you've chosen to. From the perspective of patience, things happen because other things happen. Nothing is separate and isolated. There's no absolute end of the line, buck stops here, root cause. If someone hits you with a stick, you don't get angry at the stick or at the arm that swung it. You get angry at the person attached to the arm. But if you look a little deeper, you can't find a satisfactory root cause or place for your anger, even in the person who literally doesn't know what he's doing and is therefore out of his mind at that moment. Where should the blame lie, or the punishment? Maybe we should be angry at the person's parents for the abuse they may have showered on a defenseless child, or maybe at the world for its lack of compassion. But what is the world? Are you not a part of that world? Do not you yourself have angry impulses, and under some conditions find yourself in touch with violent, even murderous impulses? Peace and a willingness to be patient in the face of such enormous provocation and suffering can only come about through the inner cultivation of compassion, a compassion that is not limited to friends, but is felt equally for those who, out of ignorance and often seen as evil, may cause you and those you love to suffer. That degree of selfless compassion is based on what Buddhists call right mindfulness and right understanding. It doesn't just spring up spontaneously. It needs to be practiced, cultivated. It's not that feelings of anger don't arise. It's that the anger can be used, worked with, harnessed so that its energies can nourish patience, compassion, harmony, and wisdom in ourselves, and perhaps in others as well. Try looking into impatience and anger when they arise. See if you can adopt a different perspective, one which sees things as unfolding in their own time. This is especially useful when you're feeling under pressure and blocked or stymied in something you want or need to do. Hard as it may seem, try not to push the river in that moment, but listen carefully to it instead. What does it tell you? What is it telling you to do? If nothing, then just breathe. Let things be as they are. Let go into patience. Continue listening. If the river tells you something, then do it. But do it mindfully. Then pause. Wait patiently. Listen again. As you attend the gentle flow of your own breathing during times of formal meditation practice, notice the occasional pull of the mind to get on to something else, to want to fill up your time or change what's happening. Instead of losing yourself at these times, try to sit patiently with the breath and with a keen awareness of what is unfolding in each moment, allowing it to unfold as it will, without imposing anything on it. Just watching, just breathing, embodying stillness, becoming patience. Letting go. The phrase letting go has to be high in the running for New Age cliché of the century. It's overused, abused daily. Yet it is such a powerful inward maneuver that it merits looking into, cliché or no. There is something vitally important to be learned from the practice of letting go. Letting go means just what it says. It's an invitation to cease clinging to anything, whether it be an idea, a thing, an event, a particular time, or view or desire. It's a conscious decision to release with full acceptance into the stream of present moments as they are unfolding. To let go means to give up coercing, resisting, or struggling in exchange for something more powerful and wholesome which comes out of allowing things to be as they are, without getting caught up in your attraction to or rejection of them, in the intrinsic stickiness of wanting, of liking and disliking. It's akin to letting your palm open to unhand something you've been holding on to. But it's not only the stickiness of our desires concerning outer events which catches us, nor is it only a holding on with our hands. We hold on with our minds. We catch ourselves, get stuck ourselves, by holding, often desperately, to narrow views, to self-serving hopes and wishes. Letting go really refers to choosing to become transparent to the strong pull of our own likes and dislikes, and of the unawareness that draws us to cling to them. To be transparent requires that we allow fears and insecurities to play themselves out in the field of full awareness. Letting go is only possible if we can bring awareness and acceptance to the nitty-gritty of just how stuck we can get, if we allow ourselves to recognize the lenses we slip so unconsciously between observer and observed that then filter and color, blend and shape our view. We can open in those sticky moments, especially if we are able to capture them in awareness and recognize it when we get caught up in either pursuing and clinging or condemning and rejecting in seeking our own gain. Stillness, insight, and wisdom arise only when we can settle into being complete in this moment, without having to seek or hold on to or reject anything. This is a testable proposition. Try it out just for fun. See for yourself whether letting go, when a part of you really wants to hold on, doesn't bring a deeper satisfaction than clinging. Non-judging. It doesn't take long in meditation to discover that part of our mind is constantly evaluating our experiences, comparing them with other experiences, or holding them up against expectations and standards that we create, often out of fear. Fear that I'm not good enough, that bad things will happen, that good things won't last, that other people might hurt me, that I won't get my way, that only I know anything, that I'm the only one who doesn't know anything. We tend to see things through tinted glasses, through the lenses of whether something is good for me or bad for me, and whether or not it conforms to my beliefs or philosophy. If it's good, I like it. If it's bad, I don't like it. If it's neither, I have no feelings about it one way or the other, and may hardly notice it at all. When you dwell in stillness, the judging mind can come through like a foghorn. I don't like the pain in my knee. This is boring. I like this feeling of stillness. I had a good meditation yesterday, but today I'm having a bad meditation. It's not working for me. I'm no good at this. I'm no good, period. This type of thinking dominates the mind and weighs it down. It's like carrying around a suitcase full of rocks on your head. It feels good to put it down. Imagine how it might feel to suspend all your judging and instead to let each moment be just as it is, without attempting to evaluate it as good or bad. This would be a true stillness, a true liberation. Meditation means cultivating a non-judging attitude toward what comes up in the mind, come what may. Without it, you're not practicing meditation. That doesn't mean judging won't be going on. Of course it will. because it's in the very nature of the mind to compare and judge and evaluate. When it occurs, we don't try to stop it or ignore it any more than we would try to stop any other thoughts that might come through our mind. The tack we take in meditation is simply to witness whatever comes up in the mind or the body, and recognize it without condemning it or pursuing it, knowing that our judgments are unavoidable and necessarily limiting thoughts about experience. What we are interested in meditation is direct contact with the experience itself, whether it is of an in-breath, an out-breath, a sensation or feeling, a sound, an impulse, a thought, a perception, or a judgment. And we remain attentive to the possibility of getting caught up in judging the judging itself, or in labeling some judgments as good and others bad. While our thinking colors all our experience, more often than not our thoughts tend to be less than completely accurate. Usually they are merely uninformed private opinions, reactions and prejudices based on limited knowledge and influenced primarily by our past conditioning. All the same, when not recognized as such and named, our thinking can prevent us from seeing clearly in the present moment. We get caught up in thinking we know what we're seeing and feeling, and in projecting our judgments out onto everything we see off a hairline trigger. Just being familiar with this deeply entrenched pattern and watching it as it happens can lead to greater non-judgmental receptivity and acceptance. A non-judging orientation certainly does not mean that you cease knowing how to act or behave responsibly in society, or that anything anybody says is okay. It simply means that we can act with much greater clarity in our own lives and be more balanced, more effective, and more ethical in our activities if we know that we are immersed in a stream of unconscious liking and disliking which screens us from the world and from the basic purity of our own being. The mind states of liking and disliking can take up permanent residency in us, unconsciously feeding addictive behaviors in all domains of life. When we are able to recognize and name the seeds of greediness or craving, however subtle, in the mind's constant wanting and pursuing of the things or results that we like, and the seeds of aversion or hatred in our rejecting and maneuvering to avoid the things we don't like, that stops us for a moment and reminds us that such forces really are at work in our own minds to one extent or another almost all the time. It's no exaggeration to say that they have a chronic, viral-like toxicity that prevents us from seeing things as they actually are and mobilizing our true potential. Trust. Trust is a feeling of confidence or conviction that things can unfold within a dependable framework that embodies order and integrity. We may not always understand what is happening to us or to another or what is occurring in a particular situation, but if we trust ourselves or another, or we place our trust in a process or an ideal, we can find a powerful stabilizing element embracing security, balance, and openness within the trusting, which in some way, if not based on naivete, intuitively guides us and protects us from harm or self-destruction. Part of mindfulness practice is to cultivate a trusting heart. Let's begin by looking deeply into what we can trust in ourselves. If we don't immediately know what there is to trust in ourselves, maybe we need to look a little deeper, to dwell a little longer with ourselves in stillness and in simply being. Perhaps we could experiment with trusting the present moment, accepting whatever we feel or think or see in this moment because this is what is present now. If we can take a stand here and let go into the full texture of now, we may find that this very moment is worthy of our trust. From such experiments, conducted over and over again, may come a new sense that somewhere deep within us resides a profoundly healthy and trustworthy core, and that our intuitions, as deep resonances of the actuality of the present moment, are worthy of our trust. Generosity. Generosity is another quality which, like patience, letting go, non-judging, and trust, provides a solid foundation for mindfulness practice. You might experiment with using the cultivation of generosity as a vehicle for deep self-observation and inquiry, as well as an exercise in giving. I am not talking solely of money or material possessions, although it can be wonderfully growth-enhancing, uplifting, and truly helpful to share material abundance. Rather, what is being suggested here is that you practice sharing the fullness of your being, your best self, your enthusiasm, your vitality, your spirit, your trust, your openness, above all, your presence. Share it with yourself, with your family, with the world. By practicing mindfulness of generosity, by giving, and by observing its effects on ourselves and others, we are transforming ourselves, purifying ourselves, discovering expanded versions of ourselves. You may protest that you don't have enough energy or enthusiasm to give anything away, that you are already feeling overwhelmed or impoverished. Or you may feel that all you do is give, and that it's just taken for granted by others, not appreciated or even seen, and that you use it as a way of hiding from pain and fear, as a way of making sure others like you or feel dependent on you. Such difficult patterns in relationships themselves call out for attention and careful scrutiny. Mindless giving is never healthy or generous. It's important to understand your motives for giving and to know when some kinds of giving are not a display of generosity, but rather of fear and lack of confidence. In the mindful cultivation of generosity, it's not necessary to give everything away or even anything. Above all, generosity is an inward giving, a feeling state, a willingness to share your own being with the world. Most important is to trust and honor your instincts, but at the same time to walk the edge and take some risks as part of your experiment. Perhaps you need to give less, or to trust your intuition about exploitation or unhealthy motives or impulses. Perhaps you do need to give, but in a different way, or to different people. Perhaps most of all, you need to give to yourself first for a while. Then you might try giving to others a tiny bit more than you think you can, consciously noting and letting go of any ideas of getting anything in return. Initiate giving. Don't wait for someone to ask. See what happens, especially to you. You may find that you gain a greater clarity about yourself and about your relationships, as well as more energy rather than less. You may find that rather than exhausting yourself or your resources, you will replenish them. Such is the power of mindful, selfless generosity. At the deepest level, there is no giver, no gift, and no recipient, only the universe rearranging itself.